Hi and welcome to the first episode of We Needed Roads in 2022. And David, he's in a 46 Ford, we're in a DeLorean. He ripped right through us like we were tinfoil. Now, it's a new year, and do you have a new joke for us?
No, it's retired, Neil. It's gone. It's gone forever. I'm a man of my word, as you can tell from the previous episodes.
Yeah, well, you brought it back after quitting Fort 1. I mean...
yeah, but it's gone. It's gone forever now. It's over. It's over until I see another good joke, and then you know what? A show we were going to talk about later. I was going to steal the joke from that because I thought it was brilliant, and I'll let you know later on what joke that was.
Okay. Well, do you know what? I don't even have to change my script here, David, that I wrote out. I wrote, some things don't change, dear listeners, be it the quality of David's jokes or his preparedness for the pod. Never change, David. Never change. And yeah, that worked out perfectly. Well, as it's been a while since our last pod, we have watched a lot of content over the holidays. A lot. So this episode's kind of going to be what we've been watching recap. And we're going to talk Netflix's Don't Look Up, also their Death to 2021 special, our thoughts on Wheel of Time Season 1, and I'm sure you got some strong opinions on that, David. We've also got The Witcher Season 2. There's been some other great shows out there, such as Arcane on Netflix. The BBC stormed in this year with The Tourist, Back to Life, and Toast of Tinseltown. And there's this little indie show that started off on YouTube, David. Something called Cobra Kai?
No mercy!
Spoilers? Where we're going, there are nothing but spoilers.
Right, so we're going to start off with Don't Look Up, starring, well, practically everyone. And it's from Adam McKay, previously of Will Ferrell comedies such as Anchorman and Talladega Nights, but more recently he's kind of been moving into his political satires with films such as The Big Short and Vice. It's, as I said, it stars pretty much everyone. You've got Leo DiCaprio, Jennifer Lawrence, President Streep, Jonah Hill going full Jonah Hill, Cate Blanchett, and Tiny Tim Atreides, which obviously Timothée Chalamet. Well, for me, it's the black comedy version of Deep Impact and Armageddon. Instead of seeing the planet and pieces of Earth get hit by meteors and explode, you're essentially seeing people explode, trying to tell people about the planet trying to explode.
Yeah. It was rather frightening how blurred the lines of satire were in this film, because don't you think that it was genuinely a little frightening how, because it's obviously satire. The entire film is just one big fucking joke about how the world would react, but it felt like it wasn't a joke. It felt like a genuine attack on the American government and the reaction to not only pollution,
I wouldn't say American government, mate. I would say world government. Yeah.
On its reaction to global warming, climate change, and its reaction to the pandemic.
Well, I mean, yeah, it doesn't take a lot for people to think it's real. I mean, the whole basis of the title "Don't Look Up" is that the idea that the meteorite is going to hit Earth actually gets politicized, just like, you know, wearing a mask or having a jab. And it goes down political lines.
I think it's the vaccination. It's the vaccination one that the whole "Don't Look Up" thing is blatantly whether you're vaccinated or not. It's the comparisons are like so obvious. Like, it's scientific. The science,
science
it's proven,
versus government,
and it's like just like you could just see it. It's right there, you know. But people are ignoring it. And choosing to believe random people on YouTube, which is what was happening in this film. Like, they weren't even just looking up in the sky; they weren't believing their own eyes, and burying it deep within themselves, just their own obnoxious. That's what it is. It's like I say, it's frightening. It was a fucking brilliant film, but a frightening film as well.
Not looking up at a meteor about to destroy us all is literally the next logical step in the real world from all the shit that we've been going through in the last couple of years anyway, isn't it? You know, because I think people just aren't wired in the right way to be under this type of pressure for multiple years, and I think that's where a lot of it comes from. People just as long as I can focus my crazed, stuck inside, can't do what I want to do energy somewhere, it's got to be someone's fault. Who do we blame? And this is where it's all kind of come from. But yeah, I mean, it's got a lot to say. I mean, it's subtle as a sledgehammer, and it's funny because some people, I've seen some critics' reviews kind of slag it a bit, saying, "Well, no, but it's so obvious. But you have to be, because people like this, who they're taking the piss off, actually exist, and if they see the film, they will honestly support the villains in it. Won't
Yeah,
they?
I mean, recently there was the 1 year anniversary of the Capitol building being stormed.
Oh, the riots, yeah.
Yeah, in America. And pretty much every single one of them is somebody that would probably not look up and ignore everything. Put the head in the sand, boom, that's where I'm living. Flat earthers.
There is a little side thing there. There's a brilliant documentary called, I think it's 48 Hours in the Capitol or something along those lines, that was on BBC a little while ago. And they've basically edited together all the footage that was shot by people that they got their hands on. And it kind of tells you over the 4 hours of the attempted insurrection happening.
I've not seen that. That sounds like right up my street.
That's really...
That is my
have a look. It's on BBC. I'll find the actual exact name of the thing. Oh, I'll tell you one other thing that was surprising for me. It's the first time, I think, in a Leonardo DiCaprio film where his other half has been age appropriate. DiCaprio is 47, and his wife in the film...
That's true.
His wife in the film, Melanie Linsky, is actually 44.
Yeah.
She's 3 years younger than him.
In fact, you know what? The storyline between him and his wife in the film was the only thing that annoyed me a little bit, because just the reaction to taking him back after cheating on him, to be like, oh, well, I cheated on you in college. That's fine. And I was just like, fucking hell, it ain't. Mate, if I was Rose, I'd have thrown him back into the ocean. And if you get the reference I just made there, Neil. You're
Titanic.
No, not just the Titanic, but where'd I get the Rose from? She plays Rose in 2.5 Men.
Ah, did she? I didn't watch 2.5 Men.
I hope
Melanie
so,
Linsky,
anyway.
Kiwi actress. Well, actually, at the minute, she is pretty much the star of Yellow Jackets, that actress.
Oh, okay.
And she is brilliant at it. Yeah. And she's literally, the whole thing, she's literally just had an affair in that show as well. So I was like, that seems to be your character trait here. And of course, speaking of affairs, DiCaprio has an affair with Cate Blanchett's character, who is basically just doing her best version of a Fox News girl. But Blanchett is also 52. So he's actually had on-screen romances that are the same ages around younger than him and slightly older than him. But
maybe he's growing. You know what? He's realised he's making
his
sure
PR
that
people
when the casting's done, it's age appropriate.
Right, no 20-year-olds anymore, Leo. No 20-year-olds. Because you're going to be that guy soon.
I mean, he does like it. He does, you know what? He's a man. He knows what he likes.
He's just going to be Rick Dalton soon. You know, he'll reach that stage.
What was the Golden Globes joke that Ricky Gervais done? Like, after seeing The Revenant, his date was younger. His date was too old for him or something. Oh,
because it was that long. Yeah.
Yeah, Ricky Gervais at the Golden Globes is brilliant.
Sorely missed. I did think that... Yeah, well, what? Not the Golden Globes. Just Ricky Gervais ripping on him.
Yeah.
Well, it's a funny thing, right? Actually, Netflix itself reported this is the third most watched film in the company's history. But you know what? I don't put that down to the film overall. I think it's quite a bit of a hard sell. I think it's down to the star power and the timing. It had all those big name actors in it, and it came out on Christmas Eve. Yes. Generally, if you release something big over Christmas, it's going to be a massive hit. Bridgerton, that explains that. You know, I mean, it was just a standard period drama, right? It was good. You told me I'm never going to watch it, but you said it was good.
You should watch it, mate. It's genuinely.
I'm never going to watch it. No.
It's a bunch of posh people.
Having great. Sex. Sounds thrilling.
It's nice.
Yeah. I looked on Rotten Tomatoes and had a little look around the web, and it's had a bit of a mixed response. This film, it's kind of critically and with the general public seems to be a bit. And again, I think it comes down political lines. You know, I think if you're one way, if you're more liberal, you really like the film. If you're more conservative, you hate the film, and you can see that online in the reactions to it. Not bizarrely, as you'd expect. I like it. I don't think it's the masterpiece of some people. For me, it's a solid 3.5, 4-star film. I think it's too long by an easy half an hour. And I think some of the character work's not great in it. So, like, Chalamet's character, who turns up...
he's kind of pointless. Yeah.
Yeah. He turns up, was he like some skater boy influencer who rocks up like an hour and a bit into the film? I don't even think he's an influencer.
He's kind of just, he's kind of that anti-establishment type, but religious type.
I couldn't even remember that, but he's like, oh yeah, he wants to bang Jennifer Lawrence, which, understandable. And then he's just like, okay, well, and I reckon her reasoning was, well, like, world's ending, okay, might as well.
Yeah, that was pretty much it.
Do you know what? Yeah. I think she was wasted in it a bit as well, because her only character arc / trait was really repeatedly running into the ground the one joke that she had, which is Why did the general charge her for snacks? It was funny the first couple of times.
I did enjoy that constantly coming up. That was funny.
But don't you think it was a bit long? Like, it didn't need to be that long.
The problem I had was I don't think it had a very strong start. That was my biggest problem with it, because I remember specifically, you know how my attention span, Neil, it's not fantastic.
Sorry, what was he saying?
So I remember watching the film, and I got about 20 minutes in, and my attention was already like going to other things. I started looking at my phone, maybe checking football scores or something like that, and I wasn't engrossed in what was happening.
So getting back actually to when you watched the film, right? So when was it released? It was released on Christmas Eve.
Yeah, no, I do agree with you that I think the star power and if you don't have DiCaprio in this, and if you don't have Jennifer Lawrence, and if you don't release it on Christmas, yes, it's probably not.
Yeah, that's not my point. My point is, so you see it advertised, it's like, a comedy about the end of the world. And you're watching it going, well, it's a comedy, it's a satire. And then it actually does end with everyone dying horribly. And you're just like, what a fucking downer of an ending. Oh, for Christmas Eve, man. Like, how many families, like, we were sitting there, my whole family, we were here, and we sat there and goes, it's a big new film, yeah, let's put it on. And I was like, wow, there's going to be some comedy way out of it. And I was like, why Netflix? Why? Who hurt you?
Well, like, they did all come together at the end, and they had the sort of Christmas dinner where everyone's around and everyone's enjoying themselves.
And then they died horribly.
For some reason, I got confused as to why the NASA bloke was there. I forget the character's name. Because I was kind of like, don't you have your own family that you don't want to spend time with at this time? But I could just brush that under the rug for this. I think Adam McKay smashed it out of the park.
I thought it was good, but not great. Good, but not great. I'd give it
I'm an 8. I'm an 8, Davids. What are you?
I'm a 6 to a 7. I'm 6.5.
Oh, that's harsh, man.
Yeah, it's too long. It does, and it's not clear. It's not as clever as it thinks it has. However, it does get the extra half a point for the most bizarre mid-end credit scene I think you'll ever see, which was hinted at earlier in the film, where you see a naked President Meryl Streep getting eaten by a dinosaur on an alien planet, which is a sentence I never thought I would say out loud, or anyone would even type out earlier.
22,000 years later? Yeah. I thought it wasn't gonna. I thought it was gonna end with 22,000 years later, and you just see them all dead in the spaceship. That's where I thought it was going with that. But okay, they were in. Whatever.
No, they got eaten by dinosaurs.
Yeah,
they got Jurassic
Park. I
Park.
also enjoyed that ending.
Yeah, I think they needed that. They really needed that to offset that everyone being killed on Earth, like regular ending of the film.
Yeah, are these mid-credit scenes going to become a thing of like a norm now?
Well, it depends on the film, right? This film, it had a really downer ending, and so I think they needed a bit of levity in it, so it didn't leave that kind of bad taste. I definitely. I mean, it's definitely a superhero film trait, but other films do it, occasionally do it. But yeah, if it needs it and it adds to the narrative and it's an ongoing narrative, then fine. Even sometimes if it's a little in joke, it's fine.
What's the next film?
Well, it's a one-off TV special, but also Netflix, and it's Death to 2021. Now, this is Charlie Brooker's, although I did a bit of research, and he only exec produced this time, so he didn't actually write it or direct it. And last year he did do that, and on the previous one, and it's his kind of annual piss take of the year's events. And I felt like it was a companion piece to Don't Look Up, in that it was massively taking the piss out of the news events we have of last year, and like kind of really skewering those types of people that Don't Look Up was skewing. You got Hugh Grant as the angry old white anti-woke professor. He was really good. He was really funny in that.
Didn't know fact from fiction. Like
he was brilliant. You had Christian Milioti as the full-on Trump-loving soccer mum who was at the Capitol riots.
Her and the British lady who was Diane Morgan, was it?
Diane Morgan stole the show. She was the best one in it, mate.
Fucking fantastic. I'd love to know how Americans viewed her character, because it was so fucking good.
I'd love to see how Americans generally viewed this show, because it did, obviously, with Brooker, it did have quite
I'm assuming
British,
Republicans didn't like it.
I'm assuming so. Yeah, I think I was looking online at the critical reviews, and I'll mention that in a minute. But you also had Stranger Things, Joe Keery in it playing the influencer. You had Tracy Ullman as the horrific American TV.
He was one of the weaker
person.
ones, I think.
Yeah, he didn't really have a lot. And you had Chidi from The Good Place playing like a Zuckerberg type of guy, and he didn't really have a lot to do.
Yeah, I thought him and the Doctor, Pyrex Flask, Doctor Pyrex Flask. So the name, I didn't get the name. Natasha, being like, she's my partner, a forensic scientist. She fucking found the name hilarious the second it came on screen. She like full on laughed out loud at it, and I was just like, "What the fuck's so funny?"
Oh, so, it's a science joke.
Did you get it? I didn't get it.
Well, yeah, about to say Diane Morgan, mate, she's brilliant. If you ever get around to watching Motherland, she's in that, playing one of the mums at the school, and she's one of the best things in that. And yeah, she plays Gemma, who's like a standard caricature of a standard British woman, and you know what, she plays it to perfection. We're also not really doing any favours to representation of British women.
Oh no, yeah,
but
best
she
thing
plays
in it. Best thing in it.
Yeah. I mean, I got to say, in some ways, I actually almost preferred this to Don't Look Up because it was only an hour. And it just seemed sharper on the satire. Like you said off mic before we started recording, there's some of the jokes about the royal family and Prince Philip. They were really over the mark.
Yeah. I think they were over the mark.
But that's what good satire has to do. It has to make you go, oh, no, I shouldn't be laughing at that. Or should I? You know,
I weren't laughing, though. That's it. That's where it went over for me, to the point where I didn't find it funny.
But some people would and some people wouldn't. And it's just a general taste thing there. And I think Don't Look Up played it pretty safe. You know, it was always appealing to like the one kind of audience.
Yeah, no, I agree. Aside from that one joke.
Death to 2021 took the piss out of Biden and took the piss out of Trump, took the piss out of everyone and everything. So it was a bit more even-handed in its thing. But yeah, I looked at the critical responses to it online, and it's full of like 1-star reviews and just generally everyone hating it.
You know where that's coming from, the people that it's not targeted to. The like the Republicans, the anti-vaxxers, all of them are going to be the ones that are going to be 1-starring. I
mean, what I liked about it, like I said, is it showed that you didn't need 2.5+ hours of film to make the same point to that Death to 2021 did. And the general point was that generally politicians are scumbags, the rich like their money, and anti-vaxxers are idiots. That's pretty much the point of both show and the movie,
I mean,
right?
You can't compare two different formats of media, though. Like,
well, I can. They basically say.
I mean, but you can't say that. Like, but you can't say that. Don't Look Up could have done it in an hour.
No, it couldn't. It couldn't do it in an hour because it was a film. Yeah. But I thought this was. But
that's kind of what you were saying there, though.
Yeah. No. They're both selling more or less the same. They're getting across the same message, and I just think Death to 2021 did it in a lot less time, and I think it was slightly better written in places. Not all over it, you know. Neither film or show for me were perfect and very, very good, but they were both entertaining enough when I was watching it. I remember putting it on, my parents were just like, and I could see the start, and I was like, oh, they're not into it. And then when Diane Morgan's character turned up, Gemma, that's when they got hooked on it. Then they were laughing at her because they recognised her from Motherland, and then they run and like, oh, it's really good at the end. So, you know.
Yeah. Natasha was the same. She was quite like, and then Pyrex Flask turned up, and it was bam. She was she was in it. In fact, I think Pyrex Flask was pretty early on, actually. Anyway.
So next up, a show that dropped on Netflix on New Year's Eve, David. And I'm just going to hand over to you on this one for a little while, because I think you're probably going to have a little bit to say on it, because it is season 4 of Cobra Kai.
Cobra Kai. I need season 5 already. I need it. Just inject it straight into me, into my eyeballs. I want it. I love Cobra Kai so much. I don't know why. It's like it's teen film. Like it's teen. I don't like. It's like I don't know, like 90210 or Gossip Girl, but with karate. And I fucking love it, Neil. I fucking love it. I love the fact that it's even a thing that you can even bring the actors back from the Karate Kids films. And it even exists is beautiful, and the fact that it's good, I love it now.
I was with you there on your hyperbole until you said it's like Gossip Girl and 90210. Look,
but you know what? It's like a teen.
Yeah, it's a teen drama.
It's a teen drama, but with karate. Yes, which is Gossip Girl. That's the teen drama. But anyway, what I love about it is how it makes you root for everybody. Like, all the characters and the rivalries are so well built, and the payoff is just it's on point. I want it. I want season 5. It makes me sad that I'm probably going to have to wait a year for season 5 to enter my life.
Well, David, there are rumours that they're actually filming season 5 already now, and that it could actually be out this summer. I
would love that. I don't think it's going to happen. I think it's going to come out Christmas time again. But
no, that's the rumor. That's the rumor.
I wholeheartedly want that rumor to be correct.
Wasn't it you harping on about Cobra Kai for ages before I actually got around to starting it? I don't think I even started watching it.
There's not been another show, I think, for a long time that makes me giddy like a schoolgirl when I'm watching it. Like when the fighting and it's so dramatic with all the music and just the slow motion and that and it genuinely
never heard them do sound effects like that.
It evokes some sort of childish reaction in me where I'm back to watching Dragon Ball Z when I was like 10 and I probably shouldn't have been watching that show. But it's
Dragon Ball Z at 10, wasn't it a kids show?
Yeah, it is, but it's quite violent for a kids show. But I guess that was shows back then, you know.
Oh my god,
he blew people in half.
I won't even start telling you about kids shows in the 80s, then, man. You'd be in therapy.
That's probably
for the rest of your life. Right, well, yeah, I mean, I loved... actually, no, I remember you first told me about Cobra Kai, and I don't know if he listens occasionally, he might still do. One of our old camera guys from our old filming days together, David, Matt.
Oh, yeah.
He told me about Cobra Kai before anyone else, and I remember when it first came out and it was on YouTube, and he kept trying to tell me to watch it, and I didn't. So, Matt, you were right. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And I was so... at the time, I was so like...
What you like about it then, mate? What is it about it for you?
Overall, right, well, I mean, I wasn't a big fan of the Karate Kid movies when I was a kid, which is funny because I generally love most of the 80s stuff because that's when I grew up, that was my era.
Mm-hmm.
But, I don't know, I think I saw the first one and I don't even bother seeing the rest of them. All I could literally remember from the first film was sweep the leg, Johnny, and the crane kick. That's it. That's basically all I can remember. But I did like the idea when I found out about the show that, I remember that, yeah, but not, you know. But what kind of interested me in it was like the setup of the basic idea where someone goes, well, what if we turn it around and that Johnny Lawrence is going to be the hero of the show and Daniel's a bit of a dick when he's grown up, and that's essentially how they pitched it. Mm-hmm. And they've just gone down it, and like you said, what they do so well. I mean, this is probably the best example I've ever seen of a TV show mixing in footage from the original film it's based on perfectly. You know, you have the flashbacks, you have the scenes, you fill in all the backstory with the actual footage. And then, of course, they've gone one better throughout the run of the show by getting all the big actors back in. And, of course, this season, the return of Terry fucking Silver. Kicking it in the dick. Well, kicking it everywhere, but specifically in the dick.
Still looks fucking intimidating. Like even now,
he's so large, man. Yeah,
psychotic. I love it.
He is so good in this that he becomes so evil as the show goes on that even Kreese is like, oops. I mean, we will be getting into massive spoilers for Cobra Kai now.
Big spoilers.
They hint so early on that Kreese has made a mistake by bringing Silver back, and as we see at the end of the series, Silver looks at Kreese and sees weakness in him. Because Kreese suddenly doesn't... I mean, he's that bad. He makes Kreese almost sympathetic by the end of the series. Which is amazing.
Which you wouldn't have thought was possible, a season ago. You know what? I think the acting has gotten better. Like, the cast have grown as actors. And the acting from season 1 to now... Like, especially from Robbie. Tanner Buchanan. Yes, that's what I think.
Yeah, Robbie.
Yeah,
Johnny's kid.
By Robbie.
He was a bit wooden in the early seasons, but he seemed pretty well. And they're going to improve. They keep working together and working with such a great cast and crew, right? So, like you say, I mean, and what makes it even better on when you think about the character arc of the villains is Silver was out of it, man. He was like happy, you know, living on his vegan food, being a rich guy, living in the middle of nowhere. And it was Kreese who awakened that in him and brought him back. And then he's ended up destroying Kreese by the end of the series.
Yep.
And he's
become the main antagonist. Spoilers.
Yeah, definitely. So does that mean season 3 we're going to have Johnny, Kreese and Daniel team up to take on Silver?
Season 5. Fucking who knows where it's going to go. I don't know. I don't think it's going to go quite that way. You're going to get some. I don't know. But man, Martin Cove, he's old, man. He's like 70 something. So for him to even be doing this at like that, to even want to come back at his age, like applaud the bloke. Fuck yeah, man. He's awesome, John Kreese. Like you can't recast Kreese.
No, I didn't say anything about it.
I love it.
Well, I was going to say, what I like as well in this series is they brought new characters in with a young generation. So you had Daniel's son, Anthony LaRusso, initially coming in as a bully, and then him being a dick turned young Kenny Payne, who was the brother of the guy who Robbie was in prison with, into a villain and bully himself as the season went on. And so you've kind of got three generations now in the one show. You've got, you've got 4 generations actually. So you've got Kreese and Silver's generation. Then you've got Johnny and Daniel's generation. Then you've got the original kids from the first series, and now you've got the younger kids at the school going through the same thing. And what I think's done so well is that you see how the younger generations keep repeating the same mistakes of the older characters. Yeah. And I think we will head towards a Robbie and Johnny being reunited in season 5. I think the way it's gone, I think Robbie has to win the all.
Yeah, but someone
Valley in the next series.
Yeah. But they've got to. But you guys got to think they've got to have a.
They need a change. Yeah, they need to change, man.
Well, who's going to be the antagonist the young antagonist that they fight against?
Well, they bring in more actors again, can't they? I mean, they do it every season,
but
right?
It's obvious. It's obvious. Everyone, what you want to see is Miguel versus Robbie, right? That's what you want to see again. Because after the season 1 fight, and then the little fights throughout, that's where it's building towards. I mean, the Eli versus Robbie fight at the end.
Yeah,
fuck me,
that was a
awesome.
Surprise, man. Wasn't
like
it?
I said, the slow mo.
I was
the epic music, how dramatic everything was. It was so good.
What a great character arc Eli's had throughout the show.
Yeah,
and again, it's very similar. You look at the younger kids.
Like,
young kid bullied because of his facial thing.
Yeah,
learns karate, becomes a badass. Then he becomes a dick and a villain, and then he turns back the other way again. So again, nice arc. Admittedly, you could kill his character off now if you want to do something shocking, because he hasn't really got a character arc, has he? He's done it all. He's been good, he's been bad, then he's been good again. So there isn't really a lot more for his character he could do. So everything I've mentioned so far are pros, and I have got a few cons, David.
Wait. Before you go on to your cons, I'm going to just mention one other pro, which I think you'll agree with. It is, if you're a fan of pro wrestling, you'll be a fan of Cobra Kai.
Yeah.
They're basically doing the exact same thing in what you watch for. In what you're watching for in pro wrestling, Cobra Kai does it as well, and I think it does it better personally. But obviously, the two different things. But anyway, go on. What were your cons?
You need to watch yourself some AEW, mate, and then you'll get into it again. So my cons now. There's not too many before you get your key in a bunch, David. So one thing people did complain about was you can't have Daniel and Johnny together on the same side all the time. It just doesn't work. The show's at its best when they're always at loggerheads. But how many times can the show? Now they're getting on, now they're not getting on. Now they're getting on, now they're not getting on. They are wearing that into the ground a little bit now, 4 seasons in. And sometimes, and where I mentioned about the introduction of the younger cast and having like 3 different generations in the show, it does feel like they are just recycling the same story and plot points every season and just slightly rotating it. Right, okay, like this guy was on Cobra Kai this year. Right, he's going to be Eagle Hawk next year. Right, he was a good guy this year. Right, he's going to be a bad guy next year. I could almost see next year already now, or next season. Samantha becoming a villain and Tori becoming a good girl. And you can already see it.
Yeah, I can see I can see what you mean. I mean, what are they going to do with Miyagi Fang?
Yeah.
Who's going to be, like, is Tori going to be... To be honest, I always saw Sam. I see Sam now as the villain and Tori as the good girl.
Because she's doing it to support her family and all that kind of...
Yeah, exactly.
I love that fake out, actually. I love the fake out when you saw her getting dressed up and you thought she's become a stripper. And then it turned out she was a princess at kids' birthday parties. That was brilliant.
That was good. I agree. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that was good. Anyway, do you have any other cons?
Yeah, a little few. So, like, I thought there was less fight scenes in this season. And obviously they were holding back on it because you had the tournament, which needed to be the finale of this season. But where do you go for the next series, right? Because how can you get bigger than the All Valley? They've had it, at least 2 out of 3 seasons now, haven't you?
Because I think they're going to be 18 now, right?
They'll be too young.
The under-18s All Valley Karate tournament.
So, will they keep it in? Will it be like a national championships or karate or something like that? And they take it on there where they can bring in more cast? And would they keep Anthony and Kenny in it, the younger kids, and have them be the ones for that thing? So you can still have the All Valley and the dojo parts of it.
Is they'll have Cobra Kai versus Eagle Fang Karate, or Cobra Kai versus Miyagi Fang, karate, and potentially have it as their own competition between the two of them, but not under tournament rules. They'll have it under if you get fucking knocked out rules.
They just need to do something different, don't they? I mean, I think they know
what
that.
What they're going to do with Miguel's dad? That's because, I mean, what they could do there is they could pull some fucking left flag out of there. Like, you ain't got a clue. They could really pull something out of left wing.
I've done a bit of research there, David, and the overwhelming theory, the fan theory online is he is Mike Barnes
from Karate Kid 3.
Yes, he was Daniel's main opponent, and eagle-eyed viewers have even speculated that some of Miguel's actions and the way he stands and his kind of fight postures and the way he delivers kicks mirror what Mike does in Karate Kid 3. Now, I mean, they have brought back... I mean, don't forget, we forgot to mention that Chosen comes back from Okinawa.
We're getting well spoiled
as well, to team up with Daniel as well.
We're spoiling this shit if people ain't seen it.
Well, that's why we had the spoiler.
Yeah, true.
That's why we had the spoiler thing. The spoiler thing.
I love that he just casually comes over from Okinawa. Like, there's no problem, man. Yeah, you need my help. I'll come over. Like the whole Cobra Kai thing for me, it doesn't exist. But I'll come over. I'll help you out, and I'm there for it.
I've been to Okinawa.
Have you really?
Like, didn't do any karate. Yeah, I've been to Okinawa. Yeah. We did a couple of tours there.
Nice.
Lots of like Japanese gardens. Yeah. I've got my picture taken next to some old lady who was balancing something on her head, and she had a 2-string weird Japanese guitar that I picked up and pretended to play.
This is where that old lady turns out to be like the village.
Mr. Mayaki's wife.
Yeah, like.
My last thing I mentioned on Cobra Kai is they're bringing back every other actor, and I think they need to start plotting when it's going to end now, because I don't want them to run it into the ground, because it is starting to get... It's still very entertaining, one of the best shows out there for pure cheese and entertainment, but they need to have an endpoint, because you can't just keep recycling it around and around again, which is... I'm starting to get a little bit of...
I'm not getting annoyed with it at all. Like I said, I'm like a giddy schoolgirl watching it.
But, I mean, by the time you get to season 7 or 8, who are you going to have left to bring into it? Hilary Swank?
What is
next
it like?
Karate Kid, David.
Yeah, what is that?
No, she was the next Karate Kid, wasn't she?
Yeah, Karate Kid 4.
4, yeah.
Or what if they decide to throw in the Jaden Smith and Jackie Chan Karate Kid film?
No, that doesn't exist, David. That's a heresy. You'll be kicked out of the dojo for even mentioning that. You chose violence there.
Yeah, I agree. I do think they need to start winding up the show, especially because the kids, the actors are already like 22 to 25, so they're not playing 17-year-old. Yeah,
you're just gonna end up in jail fighting like that soon.
Miguel started off looking like a 16, 17-year-old. Now he full on looks like a 22-year-old bloke playing it.
Well, we're gonna go from karate to high fantasy, David. So we had a bunch of fantasy shows that have been out there. We've had The Witcher Season 2, and we've had The Wheel of Time Season 1.
It's been a good year for fantasy adaptation.
It's been a massive year for fantasy adaptations.
A very good year.
And this is forgetting... Well, has it, though? I mean, right, obviously Game of Thrones is the gold standard.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of it. I mean, I'm thinking you had Blood and Bone on Netflix as well?
Yeah,
Shadow and Bone, sorry.
Foundation,
which was...
that you were a big fan of.
Well, Foundation's sci-fi. That's sci-fi, though, not fantasy.
No, science, sci-fi, fantasy. That's what I'm on about. I'm including it all, the whole ring. There's been a brilliant year for them both.
You could just call it genre television.
Well, sci-fi and fantasy.
Anyway,
they go hand in hand. Sci-fi, fantasy.
Yeah, but anyway, we're talking about fantasy shows, and this is Wheel of Time. So, David, you were the big fan of the books. You've now seen the whole first season, and where do you land on it?
Massively disappointed, Neil. Which makes me really sad to say. And I think it had 2 strong episodes when they were in the White Tower. But I think ultimately it was a big disappointment. And I might not even continue watching it after season 1. Because I kind of was forcing myself to watch it at the end just because I've got to see where it goes. I know what's coming up. I know what scene's coming up. I need to see how they do it. And yeah, my brain sees, how it looked in my brain was better than what I saw on screen, which is not what I want to go for. I want to see something that's better than what I can imagine. And that wasn't happening. It's no...
So it's your brain's fault then?
Well, yeah, man, what can I say? I'm just that creative. I'm that good, and this is why I'm out there making my own stuff.
That backfired, didn't
it? But that's. I mean, I don't know who. I don't think it's anyone to blame. I think Rafe Judkins had the impossible job.
Well, there is clearly
the showrunner.
It's not impossible, man. No, it's been done.
He did. He had the impossible job of
no, it's not
adapting a beloved series and pleasing whilst in a pandemic is where I'm going with this. Whilst during the pandemic. So
I don't think he was taken out into mind when he was. I think most of the first series was done before it hit, wasn't it?
No, they had to cancel filming. They had to do a lot of they had to cancel filming and redo it and stuff. But
but if pandemic concerns wouldn't have been taken into account when he was originally writing his script for the show, and those scripts would have been done ages before.
The script sort of goes. The script is always kind of gonna be half decent, but. Yeah, the entire thing. So, the visuals I wasn't a big fan of. From
too clean.
A lot of it, too clean. The costume design I wasn't a fan of. It felt like everything was too polished. Everything was too, again, clean. These are people that have been traveling for ages. Why are their fucking clothes so clean? It's just these layers of immersion that were just getting slowly ripped away from me. And at the end of it, I was left knowing I was watching a fantasy TV show and not feeling immersed into it. If you compare it to a masterpiece that was something like Dune, fucking uncomparable. You've got Dune where you felt the fucking sand, you felt the enormity of the world and the architecture that we're living in, and how insignificant and small that they were, and and even in the direction how Dennis Villeneuve used negative space to his advantage to portray how fucking small and how big everything else is around them. And I feel like Wheel of Time did fucking none of it. The acting.
Well, before you get onto the acting, I think you're a little bit unfair with the Dune comparison. Purely because Dune is a spectacle in a cinema. It was.
You're right. But
it's spectacle. They didn't have the Wheel of Time didn't have anywhere close to the budget to do the same kind of spectacle.
No, you're right.
For 9 hours of TV,
it isn't fair. But that's what
they couldn't do the same pacing either. They couldn't do. Yeah, exactly. You can't really compare the two. If you want to compare Wheel of Time to something, I'd say compare it to something like The Witcher, which we will do in a little while.
I'll do. You know what? I'll do Game of Thrones.
You was going to acting
early.
Okay,
So acting. So not again. Performances from pretty much the entire cast, bar Rosamund Pike, who you'd expect would be good.
And even she was asleep for 2 to 3 episodes.
I only like the 2 episodes. And who else was good? It was the girl that played Egwene, Madeline Madden. I thought she was very good as well.
But see, I thought her and Nynaeve Eve was so interchangeable.
What, as characters?
Yeah. I honestly couldn't remember who did what between the two of them, even having read the books.
Okay. I didn't have that problem, but I just felt like, I mean, I know Rand isn't the most charismatic. He's quite a bland character, even like, when you're reading him.
Bland, you mean? Bland, not Rand. Bland.
Yeah. Rand is quite bland. But I just, you need something there, a Perrin as well, something. Matt was the charismatic character, and again, probably one of the highlights, but Barney Harris isn't returning for season 2. So do you reckon that's why they cut a lot of his stuff from the? I mean, I know in the books Matt goes off with the night, and that happens. So he did follow what happens with the storyline from the book. But do you reckon they cut down on his scenes? There's perhaps they had scenes of him there by himself. There was a moment where I had to look at it, and I think that was the moment where Matt Cawthorne, Barney Harris doesn't go with them through the ways. And that was when I was like, okay, what I'm watching here, I have to completely separate it from the books. I'm watching something completely different. This isn't a perfect adaptation of the book. This is, I have to completely separate the two of them because.
So that didn't happen in the books then. He went with them.
Yeah.
I forgot that.
I don't think it didn't happen. I'm a good 90% sure that he did. I might make myself sound like an idiot here, but anyway, that was the moment where I separated.
There's a lot of those books to read, man.
Yeah, that was the moment where I and I had to see it as something, as its own separate entity, separate from the books. And what I was left with was not something that I enjoyed watching. And a lot of people have been talking about the last episode being one of the better episodes. Well, I must have been watching something completely different. It didn't end on a high note for me. It didn't end in this epic spectacle. It ended on a very flat, a very uninspired. Just the Dark One, the actor. Even though I know I'm not going to get into spoilers, but it wasn't what I wanted it to be. It didn't meet my expectation, and it made me sad.
Before the show came out, you were really gung-ho for it, and I was a bit more reserved. And I've not done a complete reverse ferret on it, but when it started, I was like, this is generic, it's middle of the road, there's nothing special about this at all, it's completely missing the point of being a good fantasy show.
I wouldn't say there's nothing special about it, but I would agree with you that it is very much generic fantasy.
It's generic
TV.
fantasy.
That, you know what, it's fantasy
there's
TV
nothing
that
in
I'd
it.
expect to watch maybe pre-Game of Thrones. Does that make sense? So it's something that I expect to watch.
Yeah.
Even though the book is pre-Game of Thrones. The book came out before, I think 2 years earlier.
David, I just think you've touched the source and you've become tainted and corrupted, just like Matt and his dagger.
Yeah, potentially. I think that if there were a few saving graces, I thought the Trollocs were fucking awesome. I know I thought they were terrible. You didn't like them, did you? Yeah, that was interesting.
I just didn't like the way they filmed, didn't like the way they looked, didn't like the way it was shot. No, terrible.
Okay.
I mean, look, as the show went on, right, I actually wasn't one of the people. I did think it got better as it went on, but I wasn't concentrating. I wasn't fully invested in it. Like when I was just, I was sitting there watching it, and I was occasionally looking at my phone. But when I got to the last couple of episodes, I wasn't doing that. So it did hook me in a bit more because I started remembering stuff from the books. I remember the ways, I remember all that kind of stuff. I was like, okay. And I think because I started remembering it, I kind of enjoyed it a bit more. Whether what I remembering was right or not, because like I say, the whole bit with Matt going through the portal with that. But yeah, I enjoyed it. Actually, it's perfectly normal middle of the road fantasy for me. And then for season 1, I give it a 6. I don't think it's terrible, and I think it has room to improve.
I give it like a 5, Davids.
And that's a strong 5. That's like a low 5.
That's a very disheartened 5. Genuinely, you know how excited I was for this, man. I was fucking pumped.
And I think you would set yourself up for disappointment, mate. I honestly do. For the future of the show, right, I can honestly see this being cancelled after the next series. Because if Lord of the Rings is a big success...
No, it won't get cancelled.
And for the money they've paid for the franchise...
I could tell you why it won't get cancelled. No, it was done a lot cheaper, and it's made a lot of money for them. It's been one of the most watched things of the last month when it came out.
Till it has to compete with another fantasy show on the same channel...
they won't be released at the same time. They'll separate their release times by half the year.
Obviously.
So.
But people will compare them, and if Lord of the Rings comes off and it's really good, and for the money they've thrown at it, they'll make sure it's good, even if it's not, comparatively to Wheel of Time. I don't see Wheel of Time getting past the 3rd series. I just don't. Because unless it gets really, really good in the 2nd series, and they kind of do a bit of an adjustment on it, I mean, going through my points I've got here, like you say about the main 3 characters, Perrin had fuck all to do, really. They gave him a backstory that wasn't in the book, and his character just looked grumpy and did fuck all pretty much the whole time. Like you said, the actor who played the Dark One, not great. He actually reminded me of a worse version of one of the villains from the Sci-Fi Channel's Magician show, who ended up actually being scarier and better. But the first time you see him, he was kind of like that. Bland's only got something to do in the last couple of episodes, but it's like you said, though, you did say early on, he's kind of that prism for all the stuff. He is the kind of like the eyes of the average viewer on the show, and so he's kind of just reacting.
He's your Harry Potter. He's like that character that you portray yourself onto. Is that the word?
project.
Projects. Thank you.
Yeah. He's very passive throughout a lot of the episodes, and it's only in the ways when he gets told, oh, by the way, you're the dragon. And he's like, oh yeah, I'm the dragon. And then he's like, and he starts
fucking
so I definitely think
anticlimactic that was. The reveal of Rand being the dragon.
I didn't think it was too bad. I didn't think it was too bad.
Did you not? Oh, fucking anticlimax.
I thought there was a definite subtle shift from that point on with his performance. It's kind of almost like, it definitely sounds like it was intended that he was bland and boring and not really part of the thing of the show. Because obviously, a lot of people who haven't read the books watch the show.
He was outshone by Egwene.
By everyone
in every fucking scene he was in.
Yeah. Well,
this is someone that's got the. He's somebody that could potentially be the face of the fantasy genre for the next 10 years. And yeah, but it is difficult. I can understand it's difficult to portray somebody who is meant to be.
I think it's
bland. Rand is meant to be bland. So
yeah, I think it's a definite choice in his performance that he was told to make, because you see that change in the last episode in a bit. As I mentioned before, it's very fantasy by the numbers, and I think, and there's nothing that really sets it aside from everything else. Like The Witcher has monsters, magic, horror, songs, and boobs. Now this feels very PG rated when compared to Game of Thrones and The Witcher. You remember, Game of Thrones was essentially a medieval drama in its first season, with lots of violence, lots of shagging, and it slowly brought in the fantastical elements of the show.
Yes, yeah. The books do the same as well.
Wheel of Time starts with an explanation voiceover explaining all about the magic and all the world of the story, rather than slowly showing us, which Game of Thrones and The Witcher do. Rosamund Pike, who was the named star of the show, like I said, she spent 3 episodes sleeping and generally looks bored the most of the time and just kind of moves her hand around a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, as you mentioned, a lot of the cast are not very memorable, unfortunately, at all. And I really think they missed an opportunity with this show, because even the most ardent fans of the book would agree the quality of the series is all over the place. For me personally, the first 3 books were brilliant, and then it kind of started getting bogged down in typical fantasy things. From what we've both discussed before, the books get better later on and end on a high. So if you've got all that material in front of you as a showrunner, why don't you just cherry pick the best stuff? Why is there stuff in the show that didn't need to be there or was just boring? Or why invent new stuff?
I think that's what was done for the first season in the first book. That's what he did.
I don't think they did a good, but they didn't adapt it as well. That's the problem, isn't it?
Yes,
they didn't adapt it as well.
Yes,
and unfortunately, that does have to come down to the producers and the showrunner. And like I say, I think if Lord of the Rings is a big success, time will be ticking on the Wheel of Time. Oh, that's a good end. And I think we'll end it there. On Wheel of Time.
I actually had one thing to say.
Of course you did. Go on then.
Well, because we're gonna transition into The Witcher now, correct?
We are transitioning to The Witchers. Yeah.
So it's actually a negative for both The Witcher and Wheel of Time, and it's something that Game of Thrones did. And I mentioned it on a previous podcast, and it was a fucking master stroke from Game of Thrones, which was including a map
in the opening titles,
and explaining and visually showing people where places are, and so they can affiliate like politics, kings, whatever, with the specific places on the map. That was fucking genius from Game of Thrones, because what the Wheel of Time doesn't do very well, and what The Witcher doesn't do very well, is actually explain where the fuck anything is, where you are, how far anything is from A to B. With The Witcher, they've actually got a fucking awesome thing. I don't know if you've seen it, where you can go on to, I think it's through Netflix actually, and have a look at, like, it's interactive online, and you can read up on every character, and you can do like where locations are and all the political stuff and everything. It's brilliant.
Oh, that's cool.
But it's completely separate from the show. The fact that you even need that as a companion piece is both fucking, it's awesome and bad at the same time. It's something that should be explained in both series, in both The Wheel of Time and The Witcher, is explaining where you are, what, where places are. You need to somehow
geography
have
of the world
to visually see. Yes, exactly, and that's what I think Game of Thrones did. Fucking, like, I didn't appreciate it at the time because I didn't have anything to compare it to, and now I do. It was thinking it's fucking brilliant from them.
Do you know? Do you know what other show does that? It doesn't have a map at the start, and it's not. And it's a sci-fi, not fantasy. But that's what Foundation does. When you jump to a different planet or a different timeline, it tells you what year you're in, and it tells you what planet you're on.
Yeah. Yeah, they kind of there needs to be something to like explain where they are, like why.
Doesn't
the difference? Like where
didn't The Witcher do that?
Does it? I don't think so. I'm fucking confused as to some of the stuff in The Witcher at the moment, like what the politics are, who this king is. There was like 3 kings at one point sitting in a room, and I'm like, all right, where are you kings of? You know, it's just like you could say they could say they're a king. Yeah, they could say they're the king of like Bosnia. I'm not gonna know. Like, well, all right, where's Bosnia? You know, like what's
it's in Europe, David.
Do you understand what I mean? I mean, even Game of Thrones, I mean, it's in the book, but they have the table which is carved out, and you see the map. It's there. It's a physical thing. And what Game of Thrones did as well was make the map like one of the biggest merchandising opportunities was the map. You know, how many times have you seen a printout of the Game of Thrones map? How many times have you seen Westeros? Everywhere. It's fucking everywhere. You can't not have known what Westeros looks like. You tell me what the Witcher map looks like right now.
Well, I've got one because it came with the third game.
Okay, but let's say you ain't watched the game. You ain't played the game, sorry.
Look,
tell me what the Witcher map looks like.
Yeah, but I
tell me what the Wheel of Time map
disagree
looks
with you
like
on
without having read the book.
Look, you are set on all these fantasy things having to have maps, right? Aren't you? That's the thing. You're a map maker.
No. You don't need a map. But you need something to explain where you are. Like Marvel doesn't have a map, but you know that they're in nowhere. You know that they're on the planet in Guardians. You know,
because it says on the screen. It literally says on the screen.
It
nowhere
doesn't do that.
Right. Okay. But the thing with The Witcher at season 2 is it's not in that many different locations. You've only got 3 main characters in the show, and 2 of them are together.
But they're talking about all of these locations and all of these people and all of the political strain or whatever that they're going through at the time. And you're just like, okay, what's this place? Why is that important?
You are trying to compare The Witcher too much to Game of Thrones, and it's a valid comparison. But Game of Thrones had 8 seasons, and it had the books beforehand. The Witcher is based on a video game and some short stories.
And I know a lot of people were confused at the beginning of Game of Thrones when it came to houses.
Exactly.
And what's the word?
With that, I've actually. And I'll get onto another bit of Game of Thrones in a minute, but I want to turn us back to The Witcher. So, I thought The Witcher Season 1 was good, but not great, and I had the same problem that a lot of people had with it, and having played the games, I still had a problem with it. So I can only imagine if you didn't have any knowledge of the games, what you followed it, and that was they absolutely ballsed up the storytelling with multiple timelines. Because you don't realise you're watching multiple timelines until suddenly a dead character is in your life.
Yeah,
like,
but at the same time, in the first season, as somebody who hadn't played any of the games, I quite liked that, and then everything sort of started falling into place.
Yeah, it did. But again, what season 1 had going for it, and season 2 to a point, is with the Witcher stories, the biggest story is to get the storyline from the game, the third Witcher game, The Wild Hunt. And that is exactly where we're headed at the end of season 2 of The Witcher. And what season 1 and 2 did, they took these short stories, these Monsters of the Week stories that Geralt had, and they made those into his storylines for season 1 mainly. I do think season 2 is a much bigger step up from season 1. I mean, I watched all of this back to back pretty much in 2 days. And what I think works really well in season 2 is Freya Allen as Ciri. She is awesome in this. Her training scenes and that bond she has with Gerald and Vesemir. And she had she was like Sansa in season 1. She was the princess who had nothing to do, you know.
Yeah,
and in this season she's suddenly like Arya in season 2, isn't she?
I know what you mean. I'm only halfway through season 2, so I can't fully, explain it, and I don't want you to spoil it, especially. But I 100% agree with you, because when it was her scenes in The Witcher season 1, I was always kind of like, oh, all right, let's kind of get through her scenes so we can get back to Geralt and The Witcher, and because they were always awesome. Whereas in this season, it's kind of opposite. I'm kind of like, we're at Geralt, he's off doing something at the moment, but I want to get back to Ciri. and see what she's up to. So yeah, 100%.
The downside of that, though, it does mean there's a lot less for Yennefer to do this season, and she's kind of like your third lead in the show, and she had a lot less to do this season.
That's true. Yeah, and
but as I said, I think the normal chronology of the show has made it a lot easier to follow. And again, what I think The Witcher has over other fantasy shows is it goes into that horror element a lot more. It goes into the monster element a lot more. Every episode or two, you'll have Geralt fight a giant monster. The Leshen early on, the tree monster, is amazing. It's so well done. And like you say, Kaer Morhen, the witch's like enclave up in the mountains, that is like visually perfect to the game. And the whole bit where Ciri's doing some training, that is out of the game. That's a training level in the game. So, they've got it spot on in that look. And of course, like you say, it has some fantastic beasts in it, pun intended. You've got other characters. As you're only, what episode did you say you was up to? 4. 4
or 5. The episode that I've just watched is where Ciri was going to be injected with something, but then Geralt was just like, "Come on, you don't want to do that," and then that's kind of where we're at.
Yeah, that's because she wanted to become a witcher, and she had to take the concoction.
We're getting into spoilers then, Neil. We're getting into spoilers for people.
No, that's the episode, mate.
Yeah, I know.
It's going to be this whole episode's going to be spoilers about these shows.
Okay.
Because
fair enough.
It's going to be too much pissing about to cut between it all. Well, yeah, like I've said, this season 2 finally sets up the Wild Hunt storyline from the Witcher 3 video game, which is the best overall Witcher storyline. So that they've built up nicely to that, because I think you know the world now. I agree with you that the politics and the kings and all that kind of stuff isn't been handled as well. I don't think they're as interesting as your main characters, and I think the show knows that, which is why they have them in when they have to have them in. But the focus is on, like season 2, the focus is on Geralt, Ciri, Yennefer a lot less. Jaskier when he turns up a little bit later again, because you're going to have some tossing your coins to witches. You have a bit of song, bit of lute playing later on in it.
Perhaps you're right in me thinking that you need to know who these kings and stuff are, because you're right. Whereas with Game of Thrones, the heraldry is fucking incredibly important. You need to know who all the lords are because they're your characters. But it's not important with The Witcher, you're right. It's a part of the story, it's what's happening, but they're not the characters that you're following. You're following.
No.
Yeah.
Those 3. And what works well is and again, it's not a spoiler, David, but where there was a post-credits bit on the thing. But do you know what it was? It was a trailer for a live-action Witcher spin-off show called Blood Origin with Michelle Yeoh from Star Trek Discovery in it.
This. Is this part of the animated one that they've got?
No, this is 6 episodes live action, and it's got Lenny Henry and Dylan Moran in it.
I think. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Twice.
Lenny Henry.
But and Lenny Henry is also going to be in the new Lord of the Rings TV show. So he's obviously like grown his dreads, and someone's like, he's obviously said his agent, put me in all the fantasy stuff.
That's where English. It's at. That's where the money's at.
I want some fantasy. So he's in Lord of the Rings and The Witcher. What this spin-off show is going to be though? It's going to be called Blood Origin, and it's about how the first Witcher was created, and this big event called the Conjunction of Spheres. And how monsters evolved in that, and I think it's just a nice little standalone story for more backstory to fill in more stuff, so that when we get to season 3 of The Witcher, they can go full on Wild Hunt, and you don't need all the backstory stuff because it's been explained in the spin-off show. So now, David, rounding off for The Witcher, I will just say if we could just get the King Killer Chronicle adapted now. Although that would mean Patrick Rothfuss has got to finish writing the third part of the story, The Doors of Stone.
I think it's
or we're
almost
have another
there.
Game of Thrones
I think
situation.
there's been a lot of little things coming out from Rothfuss recently about Doors of Stone. I think he's almost there.
Yeah, so Witcher, Wheel of Time, and a 4K DVD sale, David, meant I have just bought the 4K set of all of Game of Thrones, which me and my dad have been rewatching for pretty much every other night so far, and I've just finished season 1. And it's so good still.
Dude,
and
Game
it looks
of
so
Thrones
good on a
amazing.
massive TV.
Yeah.
It looks so good on a massive TV in 4K. And season 1 is an undoubted masterpiece. And this is where these other shows have failed at, right? Because it only briefly hints at the White Walkers and the dragons in season 1. the crux of season 1 is it's Ned Stark being forced to the capital to serve as the new hand of the king to his friend but drunk Robert Baratheon, and he has to investigate the death of his predecessor Jon Arryn. And the writing is so good in this series that, I mean, almost every line out of Tyrion's mouth, well, every line out of everyone's mouth is perfectly delivered. I miss all the direwolves, and knowing what happens in the books and later seasons, you're just screaming at the screen, "Go back to Winterfell, Ned!" Even in the second last episode, Baylor, I was just like, yeah. Perhaps Joffrey's going to let him take the black, and he can go to the wall with Jon, and he can plot his revenge. You know, you almost need a Game of Thrones what if show. And on the
chaotic nature.
Well, rewatching it again. I'm just like, you would honestly not know all these deaths are about to happen. You would not. You would be watching it thinking, right, well, this is going to happen. I mean, fucking Drogo's wiped out with a little fucking scratch.
Yeah, well, he's infested, isn't he, by the witch? What's her name? More something. I can't remember.
Mazzy Dury.
Yes.
Maz Dury.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. And then Jack
anyway,
Leeson, Joffrey. It's no, Game of Thrones, man, was something special, and it genuinely makes me angry. We will do a Game of Thrones special
ranking, a top 10 Game of Thrones shows.
Well, we could do a top 5
or
episodes or whatever if you wanted, but I want to talk about the show in general. Because I could talk for a fucking while about it.
Well, we're actually going to be talking about a little bit on our next pod, David, because we're going to be discussing House of the Dragon on our 2022 preview episode, and that is the heir apparent to Game of Thrones. And one more show, David, on Netflix that I want to mention is Arcane, based on the League of Legends game, which I know nothing about, and actually put me off wanting to even watch the show in the first place. I was like, oh, it's based on one of these battle royale shoot 'em up games that's a bit fantasy, and I don't know anything about because I'm old and wouldn't play it.
I am the same, Neil.
You are the same, but you're younger than me by a considerable amount.
I know, and you'd think I'd be into League of Legends. I think I'm the core audience, maybe, potentially, was when it came out.
Yeah.
It's quite an old game, right? It's like... Yeah, anyway.
I know nothing about it at all.
But me neither, and I also have watched an episode, because you made me.
Yeah, I did for this. And once again, we've got quite a good voice cast. You've got Kate Bishop herself, Hayley Steinfeld, playing a character called Vi, and her young sister Powder, who's played by Ella Purnell from Yellow Jackets, which is also the best show you're not watching at the minute. And they live in a steampunk undercity called Zorn, filled with danger and criminals. And they're at odds with the rich utopian city above them called Piltover. And they both kind of get caught up in a brewing war, which is going to involve magic and tech and magic tech, and it's just really cool, David. Like, I honestly think this is one of the best animations I've ever seen. As it goes on, and the animation style is really cool in the first place. And I think if this was a feature film instead of a series, it would be a shoo-in for the animated Oscar. The storytelling is brilliant. You think you know where the show is going, and then it tricks you and takes you somewhere else. You've only watched one episode, David. If you're not absolutely hooked by the end of the second episode, I will be surprised.
Fair enough, because the first episode hasn't completely hooked me, I have to admit. You know what I do feel like? I feel like I'm watching, with the animation, as you mentioned, I feel like I'm watching a cutscene, and that at any moment, like a cutscene of a game, and then at any moment, I'm just going to take control of the character. Does that make sense? Like, you know, it's just going to sort of seamlessly go into it, and then you're going to be like, you know, like God of War, where it's all just one shot, and you're just going to take control.
I do get what you mean, but I mean, like I said, I've got no knowledge of the game, and yet I was not in the first episode so much, because it's you think, okay, there's this you meet the gang of kids, don't you, and they're trying to rob stuff, and they make someone explode, and they steal some stuff, and you think, okay, we're going to be stuck here for a while, and the show just doesn't go where you think it's going to go, man. And it keeps doing that. And it becomes such a well-written... As an older gamer, right, it gave me really strong Final Fantasy VII vibes. But as a TV show, right, it's got this brilliant steampunk fantasy world. It's got the mechanic, it's got the tech and the machinery, and it's got magic, and it's all mixed together. But the relationships between the characters are so well-written, you honestly feel yourself moved by what happens to them as the show goes on. And you know what, mate? This is one of the best animated shows I think ever made. I just think it's that good.
Wow, yeah, that is high praise.
It's high praise. And Riot Games, behind League of Legends, the company said it's like got interest in the game going through the roof. They said it's obviously season 2 confirmed without any doubt. And the only thing that the show has going against it, David, is And what am I going to say?
I don't know. What are you going to say?
It's got a theme song by Imagine Dragons.
Is that its biggest negative for you?
And as Kate Bishop herself said
I
in
didn't
Hawkeye,
mind the theme song actually at the beginning.
mate, like once you meet like the main villains of the show and it gets into the political stuff up in the upper city and that, it's so good.
One thing that I did think was pretty quite interesting actually, because I thought it was well directed, and that I don't usually think of how
notice it in animation, do you?
An animation is directed. Yeah, you don't really just think it as a given. You don't really look at how it's done. But I did when I was watching just that first episode. I was thinking, wow, they've done a fucking good job of directing this, like saying like where something should be, the lighting of something, what angle people are seeing, what they do and don't know, and how they're showing that information.
It's a really, really good show, David.
It was well done.
I think you got plenty on your watch list there. So, David, that's enough with the fantasy. And onto the BBC, David. Do you watch anything on the BBC except RuPaul?
No, dude, even RuPaul's not there anymore. No, RuPaul's not on Netflix anymore. That was it. That was the big news that came out of it. Natasha's sad, man. She's really sad about it. It's gone.
Wasn't it on iPlayer? I thought it was on iPlayer.
So it was on, so that was the English version, was on BBC iPlayer. Right. But the American version, which is on like season 15 now or something, is not on Netflix. It's going in its own different paid subscription service that I'm probably going to have to fork out a tenner for to watch, because Natasha's going to want to watch it.
We talked a bit briefly the other day about how I think you were like I was about 10 years ago, where I was always there for the big American shows and I didn't really watch much British stuff. Would you say that's fair to say in some points? So BBC,
that
kind of seemed as like
that is quite fair to say.
In your 20s and early 30s, I think you're kind of like, oh, that's the establishment channel for old people. And now being a slightly older person,
I don't know if it's an age thing. I don't know. I think
it's a format thing, definitely.
You know what? I barely ever go on BBC iPlayer. I never go on it. There's the only thing I've ever gone on it for was Drag Race. I think I don't go on it.
Well, I've got 3 shows for you on there now, David. So first up, The Tourist. This was BBC One's New Year's Day 6-part drama. And it stars Jamie Dornan, and it's a drama. It's a thriller, right? But it's got a really darkly comic undercurrent.
Where do I recognise that name?
You've probably been forced to watch 50 Shades of Grey at one point, that guy? Or he was in The Fall.
Oh, yeah, he's a very good-looking man.
And he's a very good-looking man in the outback of Australia in this show. And he stars as a man who was run off the road, Jules-style, by a crazed trucker at the start of the first episode. And he wakes up in hospital with no memory of who he is. He is immediately paired with trainee police officer Helen Chambers, played just as wonderfully out of her depth as possible by an Aussie actress called Danielle McDonald, and she starts investigating the case. Now, Dave, I love this show. Me and my parents, we binged all 6 episodes fairly quickly over a matter of days, and it's got a real Coen Brothers vibe, because you think it's going to be this typical, like, serious drama and thriller.
Do aliens
It's really
turn
funny.
Up at one
It's
point?
got some... Not
if
exactly,
they don't, then
but
it's not
got
Coen
really
Brothers.
Yeah, but that didn't happen in Fargo, the film. It happened in a TV show, which was Noah Hawley's invention there. So that's more,
or a tornado turns
Coen
up
Brothers.
to destroy something.
Basically, what happens is, though, and again, no spoilers for this one because it's only just aired, so it's just going to be more of a general overview here. You meet a character called Lucy, who's Chloe Bishop from Line of Duty, played by Aussie actress, who I didn't know was Australian, because she was that good in Line of Duty, and her name's Shalom Brune Franklin. She also gets called up with her on our unnamed man's adventures, and it definitely becomes clear, David, that someone is trying to kill him. There are many twists and turns throughout the script, and it's a humour that keeps this show from being too grim at times. You've got Icelandic actor Olafur Dari Olafsson, plays a guy called Billy, and I'm not sure whether he's supposed to be American or American Icelandic, because his accent is a little bit all over the place, but he just screams Billy Bob Thornton in Fargo. And the show's really not afraid of a bad pun, David, which you'd love.
Okay.
One episode
you know I
ends
like
with
my puns. You know, you're looking out for me.
This is another reason to watch the show, right? One episode ends with someone falling to their death down a well, and Dornan just looks at another character and says, well, well, well. And that's it, and it ends on that beat. And it's so funny.
Are we talking like Arnie level puns? Oh, no puns, you know, like one-liners, Arnie level one-liners.
Yeah, it's a very good, that is an amazing one-liner. But the police officer trainee girl who's helping him out, we meet her fiance, who's called Ethan, He's brilliantly played by another. I mean, the whole thing's set in Australia, mate. So almost all the actors are Aussies, bar a couple. And this actor Greg Larson plays the fiance Ethan, and a lot of people feel he's like the main villain of the show because he constantly gaslights his missus, and all he focuses on is her sticking to her Weight Watchers plan, planning their wedding, and going to dance classes. He's an absolute turd of a human being, and he's just brilliant, mate. He's like, a lot of people he's more of an asshole than the actual main villains in the show because he's just there in the background being a dick the whole way through it. And some people have complained about the tonal changes. I think for some people, it's too funny when it should be serious, and it's not funny enough to be a comedy. I think it's perfect, man. It's like it hits that balance of crime and quirky comedy that Hawley did so well with Fargo.
Okay.
And of course, there's very strong links, obviously, with a basic setup to Christopher Nolan and Memento. You know, if you're a man who loses your memory and people are trying to kill you and you can't trust anyone around you, would you want to? And would you want to find out who you were? You know, it's got all these kind of things. Is it
more like not Jack Reacher? What was the Matt Damon film? Can't think of the word. The name, the story.
No, it's like Memento.
What, where he loses his memory every 5 minutes?
Well, not every 5 minutes, no, but he doesn't remember who he is, and there's this thing where characters say, obviously you're going to find out.
Does it start off with him not knowing who he is, not knowing his memories?
No, it starts off with him getting run off the road like in Jewel. Where
Jason Bourne
takes him out.
Bourne movies, Bourne Identity.
No, it's funnier than Bourne, much funnier.
Yeah, no, but is it like Bourne with the fact that he doesn't know who he is?
Well, yeah, kind of. But obviously he finds out. And there's the thing, when you find out, as the show's going on and you're waiting for the revelations, I'm like, is he going to be a good guy or is he going to be a bad guy when we find out who he is? Is he going to be a good guy or is he going to be a bad guy? And the whole show kind of pivots on that information as it comes towards the end. But yeah, David, it's very, very good. And just like our main character, I reckon you'll forget about it if I don't keep reminding you about it. So definitely worth a watch, man. And it's all 6 episodes. You can binge. You can binge it.
Okay.
And it's all on the iPlayer, David.
Out of the 3 that I know you're going to talk about, this is the one that looks more likely what I would actually watch.
Well, this is another Netflix discovery that was also from the BBC originally, but like a lot of people, I discovered it last year and during lockdown when it was both seasons were chucked on Netflix. And surprisingly, the director of some of the episodes of The Tourist was the same director, Chris Sweeney, who directed some episode, the first series of this show. And so, David, we're going from sunny Australia to our neck of the woods in Kent. Yep. The show is back to life, seasons 1 and 2, both available on the iPlayer, 6 episodes per season, 12 episodes in total. And this was created by and stars actress Daisy Haggard as a woman, Miri, who gets out of prison after being inside for 18 years for committing a murder. And the show definitely walks that fine line again between comedy and drama as she tries to assimilate back into the local Kent community and, well, back to life, as the show says. And yeah, as I said, David, this was filmed in Hive, Dungeness, and in Folkestone, because once again you can see the Harbour Arm making an appearance.
Yeah. I watched the trailer for it, and I just going through the trailer, I was just like, "Oh fucking hell, there's there! Oh, that's that building! Oh, my dog down there, all and it was quite cool."
And that's initially what drew me to wanting to watch the show, because I was like, "Oh yeah, that looks." My parents saw the trailer. I think they'd been to the Pilot Bar up in Hive last summer. I was like, "Oh yeah, we'll have to watch it. Oh, it could be quite funny." And I saw Haggard, she was on the talk show promoting the second series of the show. And so, you know what, with only 12 episodes split across 2 seasons, it's a quick watch, right? And she is brilliant, mate, as Miri. She has to live with her parents initially after she gets out. And you really want to root for her to succeed as she tries to get a job early on. And she has to deal with a small town's collective memory of what she did 18 years ago. As the show progresses over the 2 seasons, we learn about the how and the why of what happened. And of course, it's all the more heartbreaking, but still very funny as she tackles each of these setbacks. One of my favourite scenes from early on in the first series is when she's trying to get a bank account, because she has to have a bank account to get paid at the job she just got, but the bank won't let her open a bank account without an email address. And she's like, I've been in prison for 18 years. They don't let you have an email address. I mean, I'm pretty sure that's wrong now, because surely they let you have an email address in prison,
It's
right?
like that. It's like that advert for Santander or whoever it is at the moment. That's like, don't have an address, don't have a job, don't have a job, don't have a address, don't have an address, something like that. Don't have a bank account.
Like
don't have a bank account. Don't have a job. Don't have a job. Don't have an address. Don't have an address. Don't have a bank account. That's the one.
And that rant was sponsored by Santander. Please give us free money. Yeah, what's good is you've got all these great characters in the show surround her and supporting her, and it's all about her like re-establishing links with her friends and family from beforehand. Her parents are brilliant in it. They got all their own massive issues that are really funny. If you see any old couple around your parents and my parents' age, you argue about recycling, putting the bins out. They nailed that in this show.
Mate, I argue about recycling and putting the bins out.
Well, there you go then. See, so you're an old soul, David.
I'm watching the trailer for it just as you're talking, and like Dungeness and shit is in the background, and you're like, that's cool.
Well, and she starts becoming friends with her neighbour Billy, who's also got his own issues, as you'll find out. Now, there could be a potential third season, but I think the way season 2 wraps up the main story pretty well, and I don't think we need one. I think it's just a perfectly contained, like Fleabag. Fleabag was perfect over its, I think it was 12 episodes. Didn't need any more. Job done. Leave it as is. So are you actually going to watch this then, do you think, David?
No, probably not. If I'm completely honest, because there's too much stuff.
I admire
already.
your honesty.
Yeah.
I admire your honesty, and you're a monster.
You know what? It's not. I'm a victim here, Neil. I'm a victim of all of the content that is being pushed onto us right now by all of the different streaming services.
Oh,
we're victims of content. Both of us. We can't watch it all. It's impossible. There's too much. We die trying.
That's why we pick the best stuff. That's why we go massively into depth on stuff we've both watched, and then we have the shorter things like we're doing now, where I'm telling you what to watch, because otherwise you'd just be watching 20 seasons of RuPaul's Drag Race.
That's true. Thankfully, she's gone through them all separately at work. So, got out of that one.
David, can you hear me, David?
Neil.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
David, can you hear me, David?
Yes. What are you doing? Why are you saying I can't hear you?
You've been Clem Fandangoed, mate, because we're going to be talking about Toast to Tinseltown.
Okay.
You knew it was coming. You knew it. You must have known. Yes, after an eternity. Well, actually 7 years, Matt Berry and Arthur Matthews' masterpiece comic creation, Stephen Toast, returns to our screens after its initial 2 seasons on Channel 4. And again, like many, I discovered the brilliance of this show when it was added to Netflix last year. It is one of the more bizarre comedies to really hit quite a large audience, I'd say, with the infamous, "Can you hear me, Stephen? Yes, I can hear you, Clem Fandango," quote becoming almost as big as the show. Now, Toast is a bumbling actor, constantly getting himself into scrape after scrape and dealing with his arch-rival actor Ray Purchase, played by Harry Peacock. In this new 6-episode season, Toast relocates to LA because he is starring in the new Star Wars movie. That's how he pronounces movie, David. It's not a movie, it's a movie. And when he tells everyone he's going to be in it, everyone's response is, yeah, sure. And ironically enough, Berry is actually voicing a droid in the new Boba Fett Star Wars show. This show was not filmed in the States, and it was still shot in England. However, there is a massive raft of guest stars in this show from a lot of Berry's other shows, from especially most of the cast of What We Do in the Shadows rock up in cameos in it. And many, many, many top American comic actors as well, who I will not spoil who these cameos are, because literally when you watch these 6 episodes, you're going, is that so-and-so? That looks like so-and-so. And you have to give it a quick Google, and you're like, bloody hell, it is, but it doesn't look anything like them. And even in Tinseltown, right, Toast cannot escape fan favourites Danny Bear and Clem Fandango, our favourite audio engineer hipsters, who are always taking a piss out of him when he's doing voiceover work. Berry's over-enunciations and just plain wrong pronunciations of everyone and everything is as brilliant as ever. And they got round COVID really well by having him hanging around waiting to go on film sets a lot of the time and having lots of Zoom calls from different locations. And so because of the structure of the show, that feels natural and it works. His agent lady, Jane Plow, played by I can't pronounce her name, Dune McKeekan, I'm hoping you get it right. She actually does double duty in this show, man. She plays his British agent, Jane Plow, and then she's his American agent as well, Brooke Huberman, who only seems to take meetings while she's driving around the car in LA. I will say, the credit they deserve for the character names they come up with in this show, David. I'm just going to read off some of the character names now. You have Russ Nightlife, Des Wigwam, Billy Tarzana. Oh, it gets better. Dr. Harold Shitman. No, it's not Shipman, it's Shitman. Shepherd Gerbil. Dwight Difference, Sorry Johnson, and yes, of course they're going to make sorry jokes when she's on the phone. Nina Armenian, who I don't think's Armenian. Hoop Cock, Belinda Bojangles, Richard Chicken Toss, Rusty Halloween, Leech Beacon, and my all-time favourite, Doc Brown. Yep, there's a Back to the Future reference in it.
Richard Chicken Toss.
They're just the names. Belinda Bojangles, you know. It's so cleverly, it's so funny, man.
I've only watched 15 minutes of it, I'm ashamed to say, so far.
Well, that was in the middle of the workday, so you can get away with that. But watch the rest, man, because, I mean, it's fun.
When I was watching it, I was thinking, oh, you know what, this ain't going to be my cup of tea. I was watching it, I was like, they've spent the entire fucking first 15 minutes just sitting, the two of them, with his agent. And then his agent tells him that he needs to see the doctor. And he's like, oh, I don't want to see a doctor. I went there for my back pain. And he told me to go to a choir. And she was like, I've got to go to a choir. He told me to go to choir practice. He was a chiropractor. And I was just like, fuck me, I'm in it.
Yeah.
Oh, that got me.
Mate, there's one episode later on when he's on a Western TV show, and it's got really, really strong Once Upon a Time in Hollywood vibes. And there's a guy in that, and I was like, why is he familiar? And again, look up who plays like the sort of Charles Manson style character in it, and you will not believe it's the same actor who's known for other stuff. It's set in this kind of really weird alt reality where, you know, even though it's supposed to be in America but plainly filmed in England, it doesn't even say like Hollywood in the hills. It says Tinseltown in the hills. And all of the American characters in it seem really turned up to like 1,000%. I'd love to know what our American friends think of the show. Oh, and I got to give a shout out to my old shipmate from Canada, Zach Abbott, who asked me when were they going to get toast in Canada. To which I replied, Zach, you're not allowed toast in Canada because I believe by law you can only have maple syrup and Canadian bacon, but don't quote me on that. So, David, it sounds like you're going to like a slice of toast, doesn't it?
I might, yeah. I might watch this like at lunchtime or something.
Maybe 6 slices of
it's only 30 minutes,
slices of toast.
Yeah, 30 minutes.
Yeah,
bash through it quickly, and it did make me laugh in the first 10 minutes. So, yeah, yeah.
Mate, how can you not? It's Matt Berry. How can you not laugh at the pronunciation?
I think I've told you this before. That I once
you bumped into him when he was out.
Matt Berry in the streets. That's correct. He was the other side of the road. I was the other side of the road. We were both looking to cross the road, and I clocked onto him. And he's surprisingly short. And as we walked past, he was on the phone, you see. And I was just like, is that Matt Berry? I need to listen to his voice. And then he spoke. And I was like, fuck yeah, that was Matt Berry. And then I just continued on my way.
Because his voice is everywhere.
Yeah.
That is not as good as your Linda Blair story.
But when I was cursed by the devil.
Yeah, well, I mean, did she swear at you, or did she
No,
just
I was
think you was
blessed by her. I was blessed by the devil, sorry.
So that brings us to the end of this episode, which has kind of been our TV wrap-up of what we've been watching over the Christmas holidays and the start of the new year. And, well, we've watched a lot. We've watched a lot and a lot.
But only like a thimble of the content that's come out.
Yeah, stop being a content victim, David. I'm going to get you a T-shirt that says CV on it, content victim. I've honestly been very surprised that 2 of the best shows of the year so far have been on the BBC. Tourist was on New Year's Day. Toast was on the 4th of January. Both of them, all available now on the iPlayer. Go and watch them. If you want bizarre comedy, Toast is the one for you. If you want really sort of funny, if you want a kind of darkly comic drama, and with thriller and, hitmen and Australian outbacks and like amazing cinematography, then The Tourist is one for you.
Okay, it's a good thing that the year is only 11 days long, so other platforms have got time to catch up.
I mean, yeah, like give it up for the BBC on this one, man. So far so good for them. Right, so that rounds us off for the day. We'll see you next time.
We needed roads.